Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share with you a video that has been a long time in the making. I'm here to share with you how I knit my hybrid socks. Now, hybrid socks are just a term I use for the type of socks that I knit. Basically, I use my circular sock machine to knit an entire tube, and then I add on the heels, toes, and cuffs after the fact. So while you might be a cuff down or a toe up knitter, this is completely different. And all of the little extras, all the blue parts that you see here are actually added on after the body of the sock is completely knit. Now, you don't need a circular sock machine to do this method. All you need to do is knit either on a sock machine or by hand, it doesn't matter. Knit an entire tube first, and then you can add on all of the little accents. Okay, I have two pairs of circular sock needles, and my preferred brand is Addi. They used to call them Sock Rockets. I don't know if they call them that anymore, but they're the Addi brand, and the size I use is a 2.25 millimeter, and it's a 60 centimeter length, which is 24 inches. So I will link them below in case you are interested in them. The reason I use them is because they are very slippery. These needles are so slick. So usually with all of my knitting, that's what I prefer. There's very few things that I want a little more grippiness, but for the most part, I love these Addi needles. So my next step is just to take a pair of needles, and what I'm going to do is pick up all the stitches that are in between this waist yarn and the main body of the yarn. I do that just by picking up the right leg of each stitch. Hey everyone, so it's been over the weekend and I have some progress to show on my hybrid socks. I knit 2 cuffs, yay! And so basically this looks now like cuffs, still very long, like a long sleeve, 2 long sleeves. So now the next step, what I need to do is I need to get a sock length off of this long tube. So for me personally, what I end up doing when I crank an entire 100-gram skein of yarn, I end up obviously with a very large tube as the one here. And so what I do is I end up making 2 pairs of socks. So if I fold this again, you will see that's the length that I want to end up with. So what I'm going to do today is basically take 2 circular needles and split off the tube to the proper length. One way that you can do this is basically just by throwing the needles in and unpicking around, and then it comes off your needle and you have a sock tube with no waste yarn on it, but that's okay, it usually is fine. But one way I like to do it is to throw some needles into this folded end, and then what I do is knit another pair of cuffs. And so I have 2 cuffs down here, 2 cuffs down here. Then what I end up doing is, I think you can probably see where this is going. Basically, I'd have cuffs up here. I'd have a double fold down here. And then what I do is use my needles again to split those. And I would throw toes in there. So I would end up with 4 socks, if you can picture that. Hopefully you can see that. And then what I do is I set aside 1 pair of socks before I throw the heels in. So it's kind of a blank sock, it needs a heel. And I actually put these into a gift knitting box. So if I would like to knit a pair of socks as gifts, all I need to do is know the person's shoe size and then, or even foot length or whatnot. And then I can figure out where to put the heel, and it's the quickest gift knit. It's so great. So that's what I do a lot when I do these. Otherwise, I just either use a 50-gram skein or I crank half of a skein. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I split this apart in order to add some more cuffs, and just follow along and hopefully you'll understand where I'm going with this in a few steps. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to explain the process real quick because I'll probably speed this up. I am going to choose 3 rows. So like maybe here, this gray one, and then this beautiful bright green chartreuse line here. I am going to I'm going to go around the entire tube picking up this chartreuse round. And again, I'm just like the other at the very beginning, I picked up the right leg of each stitch. So if it looks like a V, you're picking up the right side of that V. And then with the other needle, the second needle, I'm going to pick up this round that I showed you at the beginning here and continue all the way around. And I just want to show you real quick. So when you're finished, you will have 2 rounds with a row in between. Do you see that gray that's in between? And you will clip that. And that's what you're going to unravel to separate these 2 sides. So let me continue to pick up these stitches and then we will separate these 2 sides. the best. And I am going to lift one leg of this middle round with my scissors and go ahead and clip it. Then I am going to use something that is fairly sharp, small. I just use a darning needle. You can use a sock needle if you have an extra one. Like these, I use these a lot if I have an extra one. Most of the time I don't, but now I'm going to go ahead and just start picking up stitches right where I clipped it. You can see it's unraveling. Basically, you're doing a reverse grafting stitch, so it goes up and down and up and down. You're just undoing that, picking it out. And so what you want to do is unravel it all the way to this side. Then you're going to want to take this side or this end of the yarn and go all the way to here. And then when you unravel this, well, I'll explain it now, but it'll make sense in a minute. When you get to here, you're not going to be able to unravel anymore. So what you're going to do is flip the entire thing over and unravel the rest all the way here. So the cuff's on one end and then it's long, 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 and we have needles in the end. So we have two of these. And the plan is, because I want this entire skein of yarn, this entire tube, to become pairs of socks, I am going to add cuffs onto these ends just like I did this one. So that's my next step, is to knit cuffs for these ends. In case you wondered, this is a 2x2 rib and it's a 60 stitch tube, so it's a 2x2 rib. And then I did Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off on the top, which is my go-to bind off. So I'll see you back here after I get the cuffs done. I'm back and I have knit the cuff on the other side of the sock tube. We chose this gray, kind of a darker gray color, to knit this on the other side of the sock tube. So just to refresh our memory, this is one half of the sock tube, and we knit cuffs on either end. So we actually have two of these, and we are going to end up with two pairs of socks at the end. So I have two of these, and the next step is to split each of them, and so you end up with 4 socks. I am going to do one set at a time, and the reason being is because you need 2 circular needles, and I only have 2 circular needles free at the moment. So if I had 4, I could also divide this, but what we're going to do is divide it just the same as we divided these when we separated these two. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will move on to the next step. We're on the final stages of this sock, or these 4 socks actually, and I went ahead and knit all the toes. The reason I didn't record it is because the method of knitting the heels and knitting the toes are exactly the same, so I will show you that in just a minute. But we have 4 toes. What I did is just, I had needles in these live stitches of the body of the sock, and I knit 2 rounds, just plain stockinette stitch. And then every other round I'm going to decrease on the ends of the needles. So it's 4 times per round, but I'll show you that in a minute. So the final step in doing these socks is to put in an afterthought sock, or an afterthought heel. And I did one already. Right here, here's our heel, and as you can see, it is exactly the same as the toe, which is just the coolest thing about this type of sock, that a toe and a heel can actually be constructed the same way. It's just the method of application. It's the method of getting the heel onto the body of the sock, which is different. So let me go ahead and show you that with this one. What you're going to do is we're going to pick up the same rounds just like we have done when we were splitting the sock. So you're going to need 3 rows. You're going to pick up rows 1 and 3 and leave 1 in between. Now, I hope that makes sense. I'll show you here in a minute, but you might ask, okay, so that's fine, but where do you put the heel? And how I calculate my heel placement is to, first of all, you need a shoe size, you need the length of the foot, and then I subtract 10% from that. So if your foot length is 10 inches, I subtract 1 inch, and I am going to need a final measurement of 9 inches. I measure the toe, and I measure up, and I know that the heel and the toe are going to be about the same length. So from here to here, I need 9 inches. And so I'm going to figure that length from here to here and then subtract 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches, however long this measurement is. So let's get a tape measure and figure that out. In this example sock, from my toe to my heel is 7.5 inches. So this is for a pretty small foot. This is probably my foot measurement, but as you can see, before we get to that 7.5 inch length, we're hitting at about, I would say 6 1/8 to 6 1/4 is where the heel is actually inserted. So I'm going to say about 6 1/4. And so over on this sock, I need to measure about 6 1/4, which puts me right here at this round. I'm going to set my tape measure aside, and I'm going to pick up on either side of this row. I am going to pick up, just as we've been picking up, the right leg all the way across. The only difference is on this sock, or this heel, we are not going to pick up on the other side. We're not going to flip our work and pick up, you know, for a 60 round sock, we're not going to pick up 30 stitches on the other side, because a heel only needs to be on one side. Now, instead of unraveling all the way to the end, we're going to unravel to about 2 or 3 stitches before the end. Don't go all the way to the end because it's too far for a heel, and it just works out better if you leave a few stitches on either end. Okay, that's done. And we have a hole in the middle of our sock. And on either side, we have a couple of stitches where we did not unravel. And we have the unraveled yarn on either side as well. So we're going to pick up our heel yarn. This is the same yarn that we used before, Poolside by Pineapple Yarn. And I am going to start knitting just as if I was picking up another color. Nothing special. I'm just going to hold that end snugly so it doesn't come apart or come out of these first couple stitches. I'm going to knit all the way to the end of this row, flip my work, and continue the other side, so we will have knit one entire round. Okay, we're back to the beginning where we started. I've tucked all my loose ends into the inside of the sock just to make it a little tidier. We did one complete round of stockinette stitch, which is just plain knitting, and we are going to do one more round of that. If you like a deeper heel, you can do one or maybe even two additional rounds of just plain stockinette. It gives you a deeper heel. Sometimes people find that more comfortable. For the most part though, I just do 2 rounds of stockinette stitch before I begin any decreases. Okay, we did 2 rounds of stockinette stitch and now it's time for the decreases. This is a good moment to place a progress keeper, a little safety pin, something like that on the front of your sock so you know which is the front. It can be a little confusing because the front and the back are knit exactly the same. So just a heads up, that might be a good idea. So for the decrease round, which is now going to be every other round, you're going to knit 1 and then do a decrease. So knit 1, slip, slip, knit, and then you are going to knit all the way to the end until you have 3 stitches up. Going to do another decrease and then a knit 1. The decrease on this side, I like to do a knit 2 together. The reason I do these particular decreases is because they allow the stitches to lean a certain way. It just looks nice on the sides. So we did knit 2 together. Now we'll do a knit 1 to finish off this side. We're going to flip the sock and we're going to do the exact same thing on the back for our decrease round. We're going to do knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit all the way across until 3 stitches remain, then knit 2 together, knit 1. We finished the first decrease round, and now following the decrease round, we're going to do one round of stockinette stitch. So just plain knitting for this round. Done our alternating rounds of a decrease round, a plain stockinette round, and we are down to 16 stitches on each needle, 32 altogether. And now it's time to graft this heel together. As you can see, there's an opening. We need to close it. I get to the very end and I only have 2 stitches on my needles, I just take my needles out and tighten it up and call it good. And then I put my hand in, and you can see how we have knit a heel, and I just tuck this piece of yarn in and pull my needle out, and it's ready to be securely woven in. But this is what it looks like when it's flat. You have this flap here, so just like the toe, and this is the one we just knit, and this is what it'll look like when it is on your foot. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I guess it was a tutorial of sorts, and I hope it brings a different perspective, maybe a fun, different way to knit a sock. And I think it's a great way to use up a really fun colorway that you don't maybe not even have a full skein of. I know for me, what I've done in the past is I've taken 3/4 of a skein or half a skein and knit a long tube and then put in the heels, toes, and cuffs, and so I'm able to use an entire leftover of a fingering weight skein and still got a pair of socks from it without having to guess or weigh my yarn, which is really cool. So I hope this brings you a different perspective. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or what your favorite part is, or if you learned anything new. I hope to see you next time. Bye.